This podcast is sponsored by Manscaped. Now, listen, Cupid works hard in February, but our friends at Manscaped are working even harder to ensure that your Valentine's Day is one to remember. Don't turn this day of romance into Independence Day this year and get in control with our Performance Package 4.0, which includes our signature Lawnmower 4.0. This February, join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. Now, we have an exclusive offer for you. Go to manscaped.com and insert code TIMS for 20% off. That's not unsubstantial, and free shipping. Contrary to popular belief, love is not blind, especially when you can't see it past a love jungle. That is the copy we were given. I apologise. This package also includes the Weed Whacker, which is a nose and ear hair trimmer to whack the worst of your weeds. So it's not just below the waist grooming, it's above the waist grooming, an area that's often overlooked. Manscaped even threw in 2 other free gifts: their shed travel bag and a pair of their anti-chafing boxer briefs to keep your boys cool and collected. That whole package, 20% off and free shipping. Manscaped.com. Use code TIMS. Hello and welcome to episode 292 of 20 Minute Tims. I'm your host Jamie and I'm joined by Stephen.
You're welcome.
And Melly.
Yes.
Hey, good week for the Celtic this week, wasn't it?
What a week. What a week.
Oh man, it feels good. It feels good to have our team back, Martin Melly.
It does, and that's what you said after the game. Look, we've got our team back, and that's exactly how I felt after the game as well. We've seen how this team's sort of developing over the past wee while, but we've not had a game against them, a victory against them, because we've simply not had a game. We stepped up to the plate, and we're going into the game a bit wary of what was coming. Could we get the victory? But I did not expect to absolutely wipe the floor with them, and what a feeling it was, man.
I was sitting about last week saying it was going to be tough. It was going to be a tight game. Oh, I don't know which way it's going to go. Let's give a good showing of ourselves, lads. All that pathetic nonsense we were hitting over last week. But what a day. What a day out. Sadly, as everyone will be aware, anyone who caught last week's episode, I didn't make it for reasons. For everything that's been going on in the last couple of years led to me missing that game. I feel like everything that is built up since March 2020 was an elaborate practical joke set against purely at my expense, so I would miss the game. And sure enough,
like one of Abada's perfectly timed runs into the box. COVID timed his run perfectly. And
didn't see it coming. Totally lost me. Snuck in behind me and grabbed it. Absolutely pathetic.
We obviously covered the game for Patreon. Patreon.com/20minutetims is where you can get extra podcasts and content in exchange for supporting us. So check that out. There'll be a link down here somewhere. We obviously covered the game for Patreon. You and I did the At The Match podcast, Melly. And we were saying before it, just like Stephen said, just like you were saying before it, we were like, we need to be careful. It's going to be a tight game. I was predicting either a narrow win or a draw. Gadoosh. I never in a million years expected that. That seemed like everything Ange had been building up to for the past, since he walked in the door, that seemed like everything Ange was building up to led to that performance.
Yeah, it did. It was as if the whole season's been building towards it, and just since we've got back from January, he's look boys, just give it 70-80%. We'll win these games, and then when we get to this one, 100%, and we'll absolutely do them, because Celtic have been playing well, but it's been tight games since we came back. But this game, everything clicked into place. Everything he spoke about, even back at the start when he's talking about if you're on the other side, you're still involved, and everything he talked about just came to fruition. And what a night for it to come to fruition in front of 60,000 Celtic fans. Absolutely demolished them 3-0, and most importantly, back on top, back where we belong.
Yeah. In a way, it's just as well we had such a good start, because Rangers took over after 25 minutes and basically controlled the rest of the game, according to the wee man over
he must have snuck some Amsterdam's finest in his sock on the way over here, because I don't know where he's digging these opinions out from.
I mean, took control. It's been firmly pointed out. It's been abundantly pointed out that Celtic scored a further 2 goals after that and barely conceded a chance until they hit the bar quite late on. So, yeah, I mean, I've been amusing myself. We'll get into the different players and different performances, because some of them deserve to be singled out. As much as Ange isn't interested in that, Ange doesn't like singling out players after the game, we're allowed to do that. We're fans, and we'll pick out 1 or 2 to give due praise to, because quite frankly, they deserve it. And some who maybe sometimes don't get the credit they deserve more than showed up on the night. But one thing that's been really amusing me since the game is totting up all the ways that Rangers sort of won anyway.
Yeah.
See, if it wasn't for all the losing they did, they basically would have won the game.
So-
But there was they took control of the game after 25 minutes. But my favourite is that it's not that they competed in the game, but it's a moral victory, guys. It was a moral victory for the dignified Bears over there.
Victory.
It's a staunch victory.
My favourite, Stephen, was they only win because we let them win.
Yeah.
Why did, if that's the case,
Yeah.
why did you let us win?
Don't do that. There's your first mistake. But I particularly enjoyed after the game. I saw some Rangers fans making the point that during the celebrations, obviously they would go into the corners and do the wee thing. But someone noted that Callum McGregor was telling the players to just keep the head calm down a wee bit, and they went and celebrated anyway. So clearly they don't listen to their captain. So we've kind of won anyway when you think about it.
Did you see that video of the exact same moment? But did you see Hatate's reaction?
Oh, he was gutted.
Yeah.
He thought McGregor was telling him personally to calm down, and I thought, mate, look, he's not talking. We just don't get it. I don't think Cal McGregor was saying calm down. I think Cal McGregor was saying we go quietly, and then we go, wait. You know, we do the.
I thought it was calm down.
You think so? I thought he was just telling everyone the instructions to the dance or whatever it was. Look, we've mentioned about it. Stephen, you put a tweet out from 20 Minute Tim's Twitter account along the lines of, we should be mortified how much we paid for Reo Hatate.
Absolutely embarrassing. And we, honestly, I think there must have been some sort of admin error. I think that, was it 1.3 million or something?
Ridiculous.
You think that Kawasaki Frontale, I think you pronounce it, if I'm hopefully not butchering that. Do you think they thought they were getting 13 million? The decimal point was in the wrong place.
Too far.
Wait a minute, Celtic, before you leave, it says here, right, keep in touch, yeah. Cheers for that. And the guy's just like, the CEO of Kawasaki's going to kill me, man. I've sold the best player in the country for 1.3 million. But I mean, the recruitment, which we can come on to as well, has been outstanding this season. Probably even the best I've ever seen at Celtic. It's been absolutely incredible. In the regard of building an entire team, because loads of managers we've had over the years and decades have added brilliantly to what was already there, such as Martin O'Neill, such as Wim Jansen, who signed Larsson and Lambert and added them on top of some cracking players. But really, having built an entire team with almost no misses in the entire squad is incredible. But the signing of Hatate seems absolutely outrageous. For that kind of price, I don't know how they've pulled it off, but frankly, I don't care. It's not really my job to care about how they managed to get it done. The fact is they've pulled it this absolute masterstroke. And he's 24 years old. It's not like he's, we've somehow found like a Lubo type thing where he's been overlooked for decades and he's actually 33. If only we'd signed him 10 years ago. The guy's only going to get better.
He's not up to speed yet, Melly. He's not up to speed yet, according to Ange Postecoglou. I mean, he finished a season in Japan and then came over to us. So this is really pre-season for him. These are pre-season runouts.
Just getting started, and boy, oh boy, if that's him getting started, man, I'm excited to see him. Every time you see him, you're like, something's not right here. This guy's just too good already. We thought Kyogo was an absolute superstar, and he has turned out to be, but this guy as well, you're like, what a Rolls Royce of a player, just slotted into that midfield as if he's been there for years. And just looks a class above everybody he's playing against.
He's everywhere at all times, doing everything brilliantly. That's basically how you sum up Reo Hatate when he's in that performance anyway.
Yeah, even that point in the first half where Rangers make a break from, I think it was our corner, and then the ball goes down the left-hand side, and there he is just cutting across as a player just to see the ball out of play. Well, there's a 50-yard dash to get back in there. He's prepared to do the hard work, but on top of that, the quality the guy's got is unbelievable. And we've seen the assists, we've seen the goals, but he just seems to be doing something every game. And this game was just peak Hatate, and we're probably going to get to see better from him as well.
He's here, he's there, he's everywhere, the best you've ever seen.
Yes.
I just come up with that. I don't know.
Straight off the dome piece.
Straight off the top of the dome.
He's absolutely transformed this team, though. He's transformed that midfield. And, we'd had discussions a couple of weeks ago and on this podcast before about, where does David Turnbull fit into this Celtic team? And we kind of got the feeling that David Turnbull wasn't Ange's 100% complete type of player, and if he could replace him out, he might look to do that. But you're now looking at the performance that Hatate's putting in, and you're thinking, how does David Turnbull get back into this team, Millie?
Well, I was thinking that the weekend,
it's great to have options. We're not putting David Turnbull down here, but I mean, it's going to take somebody special to dislodge Hatate now.
Yeah, and saying that as well, David Turnbull started every game he was available for Celtic. Probably a lot out of necessity, but He was scoring goals, he was assisting, he was playing well, and this guy's come in and just been absolutely sensational. But we're not going to have, we've seen all season injuries, we come in and out. But if you're looking at Celtic's midfield options when he comes back, sort of McGregor and that number 6 and the rest of them, that's fine. But the two positions above that, we've got Rogic, we've got Hatate, Matt O'Reilly, and
O'Reilly as
Turnbull.
well.
Yeah.
O'Reilly.
So
We'll get to him.
even if you're looking towards the game at Aberdeen on Wednesday night, like, what midfield three do you play? Because McGregor has to play, Hatate has to play, O'Reilly pretty much has to play, and now Rogic has to play. It's great options to have, and it's something that we haven't had even when on the game. Even having Maeda on the bench, it was an option of something if Giakoumakis wasn't working. He did that absolutely brilliantly. We had something on the bench, and now that we've got this now, we're in full flow because the Rangers game and then the Motherwell game, the two performances have been outstanding.
Let's bring it back to this Rangers game though, Stephen. This performance that we managed to pull out the bag against Rangers, it is, for me, it's the type of performance you think, this is what Celtic want to do against them. This is in the locker. And I said on the podcast last week, it's like we used to murder them. We used to murder them, and it's like someone just turned off a tap and we just stopped doing it anymore. And it's been long past time we beat them and we need to dig out a win. But we just absolutely steamrolled them. They looked beaten within 2 minutes. They could not compete with what we were throwing at them. And that's the way it should be. That's the way I like it.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for the now quite familiar extra finding of a few extra % from Alan McGregor, it could have been completely out of sight in the first. Well, eventually it was out of sight in the first half, but it could have been even worse for them. The way they started the game was unlike anything I can remember in recent seasons. Now, I'm obviously scarred by what's happened in recent years, as you've been talking about, but I feel like even when Celtic were beginning to dominate over Rangers, often it was Rangers who would start quite quickly. I'm thinking back to the days where they still had people like Kenny Miller in the team and all that. They would start like a train and just try and put our defenders, it would have been like Jozo and Sviatchenko at the time, put them under immediate pressure. So I feel like we've just turned that and just done it straight back to them, and they could not cope with it at all. Couldn't come close to getting anywhere near it. And it's a subject I feel like we'll end up talking about tonight as well. But we owe a debt to shitebaggery. This team owes a debt to shitebaggery, not only from guys who come in on 400 grand a week and decide they couldn't be bothered playing on the day, despite the fact there was other guys.
They did a good view, but
we did a good view. Other guys getting off planes to take part in the game. But we also owe a debt to Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe's shitebaggery. Whichever of his backroom staff didn't fancy it, we owe a debt to him. We owe a debt to Riley McGree shitting it as well, because we got Matt O'Reilly in just on the back of that. So thankfully we have shitebaggery to praise.
And there was a lot of shitebaggery on that pitch.
I will come back to that. And that's what I was thinking as well. That in another world, even just a couple of weeks ago, if Riley McGree had signed for Celtic, he'd have been away with Australia as well. True. What options would we have had in there? So it's just
there's no way he's a better player than Matt O'Reilly.
No, I don't.
No chance.
I don't think so. Time will tell, but Matt O'Reilly looks as if he's smashing for Celtic. But the most pleasing thing for me with the victory, well, I don't know most pleasing thing, but one of the most pleasing things was, sort of under Neil Lennon, we sort of said we need to find a way to beat Rangers, because we can beat everybody else, but we struggled in the derbies to beat them, and they sort of had that over us, but we didn't find a way to beat them. We used our way. That is the way we play every week. It's the way we've been playing all season. It's served us well. And when we played them, we'll find out what we're really all about. Because it's worked in Europe. We've played up against teams, even in the European games, we've taken a little beaten off by Leverkusen. We still played well within that. We came close against Betis and all that. But this was a big acid test for Celtic. And they passed it with flying colours, like coming out the trap straight away. Rangers couldn't deal with the intensity. Celtic's press put them under constant pressure. They folded. They completely crumbled under it. And do you know what else added to that as well? The crowd.
I was about to say
and
that.
It's not anything to do with MD apart from Rangers. That there's 60,000.
I don't want them back now. That was much better.
So? I'd have loved it if 8,000 had to sit and watch that, man.
I would have been good for that point of view. But see the atmosphere that we created that night. That's the best atmosphere in British football. Might be the best atmosphere in European or world football. There's no other club can put that on. 60,000 Celtic fans, the tunes, the lights, the pumping we doled out, like all that building up to the game. You know, there's a lot can be said about how Rangers performed last season, how Celtic performed last season, right? But one thing's for sure, they never had to deal with the occasion of Celtic Park at any point last season.
No,
They
that's true.
never had to
Yeah.
deal with it. And that would have given them PTSD. They're coming out to that going, wait a minute, this isn't like last season. All that feeds into it. The whole atmosphere, I'm convinced, feeds into it, Stephen. The way we've been performing recently, the last minute wins, when they drop points last minute, we get points last minute. They're watching sports scene, they're seeing how we are performing, and they're coming out to that crowd shite bags.
Shite bags once again.
That's a word that's going to come up quite a lot on this podcast.
There's been a lot written about this game in the days since, and it's been not just Celtic fans, because it's all very well us sitting here as Celtic fans saying, "Oh, the atmosphere is this, the atmosphere is the best in Europe," blah blah, because that's the kind of thing we say. But there's been an awful lot of neutrals, people with no investment in their game whatsoever, said, "Look at that! Look at what that occasion was." There's been excellent tactical breakdowns written by Michael Cox and all that sense, but there's been stuff online about how this atmosphere is what Liverpool fans think they are. This is what they think Anfield is. And there are so many people as well, people from Australia, people from all over the world saying this is bucket list stuff. I need to get there. That next time, once travel's back to normal and all that, that's on the list, going to Celtic Park. So yeah, it's not just us blowing smoke up about our own club and all that, saying about the atmosphere.
So facts.
Yeah, exactly. It's been felt all over the world, and it's not even just in the stadium, because in the stadium's completely different to viewing it on telly or watching clips on Twitter and all that. But it's been so good that it's been felt even through the distance of it. You didn't have to be at the game to fully get an appreciation for it, because it's got that in common with any stadium. You could watch any stadium online. Anfield's another example. You could watch Anfield and think, well, that looks like a good atmosphere. But then you compare it to videos that came out about Celtic Park, and it's absolutely night and day.
This has been building towards this, because it's not only the 60,000 in there, but Andrew's sort of got this club going again. He's got us going again, because everybody's looking to see who's in the lineup. Even when we got to the game, Jamie, we got there at 7 o'clock. It was mobbed, absolutely mobbed. Everybody was coming there to support their team. Everybody was ready for this. And when you got inside there, the 60,000 people, the Green Brigades displays and all that, there was top tier displays. It was all class. And then as soon as the game kicked off, Celtic went at it, and the fans were singing completely behind the team. And this is all come together. But also, every time Rangers touched the ball, they get booed every single time. Everybody was involved in it, and it just felt like it was a whole collective that Andrew's brought together and just got this result. It was tremendous.
So they come out to all that, Stephen, all this stuff in their mind, and within 5 minutes, they're done.
Demoralising. I also tweeted during the game, see when it hit half time and it was 3-0, I also tweeted something that went down quite well as well. I was like, break them, demoralise them, finish them.
Yes.
No, and in many ways, the start was what it was. We've already spoken about how hard we hit them going in, to be 1-0 up after 4 minutes, and then it looks for all the world like it's going to be an absolute rout. But there was something so satisfying about the fact that they just did all the work in the first half and then just almost toyed with it. I don't want to get carried away, because the Rangers did creep into it a little bit towards the end. Well, it's kind of easy to do that when you're 3-0 down and the game's completely gone.
Ryan Jack was man of the match for the second half, remember?
Ryan Jack strolled it majestically, absolutely gave us a lesson in midfield. So there was that. It was another victory for them.
Should have started them then.
I should have started them. That's a real shame. That so much talent on the bench and in the stand, but fortunately it wasn't available. But yeah, it was an incredibly satisfying way to go about the game and just close it down, because it's a comparison I made in our sort of aftermath video that we did the day after. There's something about the way that Man City are so confident in their ability to do that, to just shut a game down. Even at 1-0, you'll see them just round it out and just the teams kind of get through them. And I felt it was something quite reminiscent of that, the way Celtic just went about their second half as if it was, job done. The hard work's done. Let's just get the shutters done.
Tough game on Sunday to prepare for, so we better keep ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've watched the first half back, and it's an absolute joy, man. It's total football. It's liquid football as well. But I was trying to figure out what Rangers were trying to do, and they weren't at it. I think what they were trying to do is have Kent and Diallo come inside and pretty much man mark Taylor and Juranovic to stop that happening. But they did that for a wee.
Was that the plan? Was
Yeah,
it?
But they did that for a wee bit. But as soon as Taylor or Juranovic went beyond them, they didn't bother tracking them. So that's fine. They've got them, and then they had Arfield sort of in with McGregor. But Roof dropped quite close to him, leaving both our centre backs on the ball. And usually you'd leave one of them on the ball, so you'd maybe close down the pass to Carter Vickers and leave Starfelt if people maybe see him as the weak link. But they didn't do any of that. So as soon as they dropped into these positions, Celtic just passed it between the two centre halves, waited till Hatate and O'Reilly moved into space and just passed it to them. And then Taylor and Juranovic went beyond, and they weren't getting tracked. So Celtic constantly had a man over, constantly had overloads, and every time it was just, I was thinking, go down the left side. In fact, go down the right, go down either side, because we're getting in. Like the Celtic the way we play is the Hatate and O'Reilly go out wide to get the ball, and they were free all the time. And then as soon as they were free, like Taylor and Juranovic, they both had brilliant games. Just either came inside to get the ball or overlapped and just caused Rangers all sorts of problems. They couldn't handle it.
If Diallo and Kent truly were part of the defensive plan, then if it reminds me of, remember that meme of the Watson holding the door frame together, something like that, or the one where the guy walks up and slaps like a bit of sellotape on the water tank that's flown out. So that was obviously their approach, but there's been a lot made of that. See what you're describing there, and I've already referenced the Michael Cox article in The Athletic. I would advise people to just go and read that for themselves, because he doesn't.
We can't be bothered explaining
exactly
because we don't understand.
I almost got away with that as well. I was always going to bluff my way through that, but yeah, he does an awful lot better job than I could have breaking it down. But long story short, it's basically, it refers to that, the way that Celtic used the wide areas to basically ghost past players, to just bypass their midfield, bypass players, and it's a really new, exciting version of this. But I feel like this is the strongest cast we've had for that idea since the Rodgers days, because I remember seeing when Tierney and Sinclair were on the same side, and Armstrong would come over from the midfield and just sort of stitch those three together, like wee trios working out in the midfield, out in wide areas. So it was quite reminiscent of that, but obviously with the difference of the fullback coming in to free up space in there.
We never had a bad performance throughout the whole. We never had a bad performance throughout the whole squad.
Well, Joe Hart had nothing to do, so
okay. If you want to be king contrarian about it,
poor guy was just standing there like, what? I'm just enjoying the atmosphere.
3 out of 10 for Joe Hart.
But I mean, we'll talk about the goals. We'll get to the goals in a bit. But I want to take a minute to talk about Greg Taylor, because I think if Juranovic hadn't had such a good game, more people would be talking about how good Greg Taylor was. Greg Taylor, that was probably his best game in a Celtic shirt. He absolutely bossed it. He was brilliant,
absolutely brilliant. Always willing to get on the ball. I think you said, was it last week or on the pre-match, about like, it's not defensively you worry about Greg Taylor. He never gets absolutely ripped or somebody goes by him. So that was fine up against Diallo, and subbed at half-time says it all. But it's Greg Taylor on the ball he's brilliant. He was always available. Even in the Motherwell game, Fred and passes through, and he just works so well with McGregor, Hatate, taking the ball off Starfelt, and then finding Jota as well. He's such a good energy about him as well. He's always willing to go beyond. He's always in good positions, and just looking at him, like, there's always been, like, maybe now when you look at Celtic, you go, left back we could maybe improve on. But for me, that was Greg Taylor coming of age, and it's always kind of been Greg Taylor, Kilmarnock fullback.
Yeah,
he's firmly a Celtic fullback now.
Is that one of the things holding him back then? Maybe it's just he's an unheralded signing from an unfashionable club, and he's been here a long time. In fairness, this is his 3rd season. Came in at the same time as Bolingoli, and he's well and truly seen him off, Chris.
Yes.
But there's something about Greg Taylor, and I've been maybe guilty of it in the past as well, but underappreciating him.
Aye, for
sure.
sure.
He's definitely Ange's guy in there. He's a big fan of him, and doesn't really seem to be interested in all the chat about replacing him or anything like that. I mean, obviously, goes for any position. If there's a better player out there, you go and get them. But I don't think it's in any way a priority to replace
the amount
Greg
of
Taylor.
players that we've brought in multiple positions. If Ange wanted to replace Greg Taylor, he would have replaced Greg Taylor.
Very true. I mean, what I said about the multiple Japanese players coming in at the same time was that they all addressed different problems. You could see the sense in bringing all of them in. It wasn't just a scattergun, let's just load up the shopping bag with Japanese players and bring them back. It wasn't a case of that. They all addressed individual problems. So you're not telling me that there wasn't a left back that probably could have been available. The fact probably is, assuming that they just didn't want one because they'll get Greg
Precisely.
Taylor, and Scales can fill in and do bits and pieces here. And I fully expect him to play probably quite soon because we saw that with Ralston coming in with Dundee for the away game at Motherwell. So there's something about Greg Taylor though. He always looks shattered.
Aye.
He's got a resting shattered face, and I wonder if that maybe sort of plays into the perception of him. He just always looks knackered.
Remember
no
he
matter what he's
got
doing.
during the first lockdown, he got like 16 minutes for the 5K. He was the best at Celtic. That's incredible.
16 minutes?
16 minutes.
You know, man. One player that I'd said before the game, I was like, I'm a wee bit worried because Rangers do have players that can hurt us from time to time. One was Ryan Kent. Fireball. That's all I'm going to say about that.
The only thing that scared me about him was his haircut, man. It was terrible performance.
This team, they win one title in 10 years and they think they can cut out with haircuts like that. It's absolutely mortifying. Juranovic, though, Stephen, you were raving about him.
One of the best fullbacks I can remember at Celtic. And again, I'm sitting here still basking in the glow of this game. It's been a few days and I might get carried away. But again, as I said on our reaction or our aftermath video, if you want to take me to some authoritative podcasting body, the Federation of International Podcasts, just try it.
Yeah.
Sue me if I get carried away and say things I don't mean. But Juranovic is one of the best fullbacks I can remember at Celtic on any side. The level that he can probably reach at Celtic is the sky's the limit with him because he's another young guy as well. Lustig had his successes at Celtic and was brilliant for several seasons. But I think his ceiling is an awful lot higher than anything I can remember being at the Celtic, and include Agat and McNamara and all these guys. He is potentially going to be up there with any of them if he stays about.
Absolutely ripped the piss out of Ryan Kent several times, even laughing at him. And what I like about that is that Juranovic is new into the club. He knows that we've got a history of absolutely bossing this lot. Do you know what I mean? He's not just like quietly going about his job. He's going about his job and enjoying it.
It was brilliant, and like, the laughing at him was great, but it wasn't just the defensive performance because he had Ryan Kent. Ryan Kent didn't get by him once. There was a good few times Ryan Kent tried to go past him, and Juranovic came away with the ball. He won the ball cleanly, went forward, but it was the all-round performance from him, from moving into that midfield inverted wing-back position to even that run he did where he broke on the ball and ate up about 80 yards taking the ball up. It was a all-round performance from him. It's kind of similar to Scotland right now with Celtic. Like, we've got two of the best left-backs in our history currently at Scotland, and Celtic have got two of the best right-backs in our history currently at the club as well.
I saw that coming for a mile around the corner as well. I was still bracing myself for that. I had a wee smirk on my face with that coming. But, you know, it's unfortunate for Ralston, and as I said, they did come
class
into
at the weekend.
Exactly. It's unfortunate for him that he's having the season of his life, but the fact of the matter is, Juranovic is just a top player, and another steal, absolute steal of managed. I can't help that. I can't let myself get free of the idea that we've got a bill coming around the corner for all these players.
Well, this is it. See, every season we would accuse Celtic of penny pinching, right?
Yeah.
But we've been spending far too much. What are you doing? Spending $4.5 million in Barcas and $5.5 million on a Yeti when all this value is out there?
That's exactly it, because he's a guy who might come up, but just I've got the opportunity. Matt O'Reilly, it's like, it's not supposed to be as easy as this. We're not supposed to be able to go out and get a player like that who can just seamlessly fit into the team, do a job in a Glasgow derby, look brilliant in every game he's basically played, create numerous chances on his debut, and come on off the bench against Motherwell and start creating chances with through balls. We're not supposed to be able to find players like that, and we're not supposed to be able to build a team like this either. What you're supposed to do is fill the team, overpay wages for loan players, for guys that can't get a game at Premier League teams or something like that. They come up and
too
flop.
scared to play.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it's supposed to happen for Celtic, and it's so unnerving that we're managing to get the recruitment so well.
And it's the manager. I said this on a recent Patreon podcast, patreon.com/20minute Tims. We've not had to upend the whole structure of the club, right? We've got a scouting department, and we've got a manager who actually knows what he wants for his players. He knows what profile they should be and what he wants for his players. So he tells the scouting department what he wants. They then present him with options, and he's capable of picking one that actually works for the team. And then when he brings them in, he's capable of giving them a game plan, creating an environment. Everything is from Ange Postecoglou. It's him that's created this environment. It's him that's brought the team back from wherever it was 12 months ago. And that whole team is his doing. How many signings started that game that were his? 9 or something?
9, yeah.
I mean, this is Ange Postecoglou's Celtic team now.
This is without Kyogo as well.
Aye.
Kyogo's still missing.
Yeah, we spoke about it before. If you had said a few weeks ago, no Rogic, Turnbull, Kyogo, are Celtic going to win? You're like, we can't. But Hatate, O'Reilly have come in, slotted in, not even seamlessly. They look better than
I know.
the players that were there already, which is unbelievable. And I'm trying to think when Stephen was saying there, like, we've went through Juranovic, Greg Taylor, the improvement on him. We always see Brendan Rodgers, Martin O'Neill, when they come in, they can maybe work with the players that are there and get them playing back to their best or beyond that. And he's doing that with Greg Taylor. Cal McGregor's thriving in this environment. There's no really anybody else. Turnbull's even improved when he was playing as well. But looking at the signings, you're like, I need to remember to talk about him because Kyogo and Jota have been so good. Sometimes we forget about Abada, and because Juranovic has been so good, we forget about Carter Vickers and all that. And then you're like, and Hatate's scoring the goals, but Matt O'Reilly's been absolutely sensational. If it wasn't for Hatate, we'd be talking about Matt O'Reilly. And then I'm like, we didn't even mention Joe Hart yet. He's been a class act since he
Tried
came
doing a
in.
podcast about it.
So it's just everything's came in spot on for Celtic. Everybody's looking great. Even the wee worries we had, like, maybe Juranovic's best games at the start were at left back. Now firmly a right back. The midfield, how do these guys get back in? It's really exciting times for Celtic, and that game just brought it all together.
Were you surprised to see Cal McGregor start?
Oh,
A little bit surprised to see him start the game. I hoped that he would be involved in some way, but it's easier said than done. Coming again, there's the contrast with the shitebaggery on the other side.
90
We've got a guy coming in with a literal broken face and coming in and starring it. And not only that, but the way he came in, and it feeds into a broader discussion about Callum McGregor as a captain. See the clip that's been doing the rounds of him absolutely hounding Barisic,
Yes.
right? Absolutely on top
What
of
did he
him.
call him?
He called him a shitebag, and I've said that word far too many times now on this podcast. But that was simply quoting. That wasn't me.
Just a comment for all the Rangers fans who are inevitably going to end up in the comments.
Yeah, the contrast there, a guy, the clip of him absolutely hounding Barisic in his face and chasing it down. Any fears that Callum McGregor wasn't going to be that kind of captain, totally blown out the water for me, because he can do both. He can be the footballer, he can be the inspirational leader, and he can be a bit of a tiger in there as well. You know, he's like shouting at the ref and complaining about decisions. He's getting involved in things like that, and he's calling opposition players a shite back into their faces. So absolutely brilliant from him.
I didn't know he had that in him. I'll be honest, I didn't know he had that side of the game. I know Callum McGregor's a good captain, but I thought he was like good, professional, head above water, just chest out and just played the game very professionally. But see, when I saw him, first of all, turn up with that mask on, I was like, what a guy, putting his body on the line here for the cause. And then when I saw those clips of him doing the rounds, haranguing Barisic, I thought, man, I didn't know you had that in you. I'm so pleased to see it. A bit of the Bruni.
I was delighted with it because, as we say, like, we know he's a great footballer. He'll give you that 7, 8 out of 10 every week. But to get this as well, he's growing into the leadership week on week. And when we heard he trained the day before, you're like, if he's training, he'll play, because that's the kind of guy he is. And
unlike someone else already mentioned.
And the fact that he came out after it and said, look, there's 60,000 people in here that all play with a broken face, so I'm no different.
Were you surprised nobody tested that mask?
Oh. Look, the guy was sensational as well. Look, coming back from the mask, having the mask on, coming back from that injury, playing 90 minutes in a game of that magnitude, but also he was brilliant as well.
Yeah, he was
another
smoking.
player that was absolutely sensational. And
Come on. Come on.
Sorry,
now.
it took me a second there. He was absolutely... Somebody stop me. He was sensational in there, and he just dictated the whole game. And when you look at how the game went now, you're like, imagine Callum McGregor didn't play that game. It could have been so different, but he did. He came in, done his job and more, and again, just looks a class above. And it's again him and Ange Postecoglou, like, they're bringing this all together. Callum McGregor knows how to do it, how to do this. He's been there and done it, but Ange Postecoglou's came in and just got it as well.
Let's turn our focus just to Cal McGregor in the game. Stephen, were you surprised nobody tested that mask?
Yeah, because apparently that's just the kind of thing you do. That's what
Yeah.
you do in football. You leave one on them. You let them know you're in a game and all that.
Dark ages, man.
Just nonsense. I mean, I've seen it said.
We
after
are
the
here
game.
referring to Chris Boyd's comments for anybody who hasn't read them.
Unfortunately, yeah, Chris Boyd has basically just sort of done his best to ruin the occasion for everyone, basically for everyone, as Chris Boyd is wont to do. I'm fed up with the guy, to be honest. And look, I'm not a guy who gets offended or gets kind of sniffy about a guy who is a bit of a panto villain. I've been open in the past about how I quite enjoy that kind of thing. If it's witty, if it's a wee bit tongue in cheek, if it's a wee bit funny. Craig Levein being a good example. I think he knows what he's doing. He likes to roll wee grenades in there and just be a wee bit cheeky. His feud with Michael Stewart's pretty funny as well. But Chris Boyd's none of that. Chris Boyd is just a... And I'm careful here. I don't want to be saying things that get us into trouble. Yeah, I don't want to be getting... I'm trying to find the words to describe Chris Boyd without being libelous. I just think he's a numbskull, to be honest. I think he's just an obnoxious presence in Scottish football. I think he's unnecessary as well, because I've heard all the arguments for it. I've heard all the, he's just a bam-up merchant. Why do we need one of those? Why do we need that in football?
Does English football have a bam-up merchant on Sky?
If they do, then he's...
Usually these guys are confined to like minor radio channels or whatever. You don't have like... If Roy, you've got Roy Keane, Jamie Carragher, Gary Neville, Micah Richards doing the Premier games on Sky, covering the top of the game there in England. None of them are bam-up merchants.
And let's be clear about this as well, they are all partisan members of the media. They all are open about the clubs they are affiliated to and support. So I don't have a problem with that, because it's not about range. See, people will be watching this thinking, he's just bitter because he's ex-Rangers. But I've got an awful lot of things to say about Celtic equivalents of that. I've got no time for a lot of Celtic equivalents who give their opinion in the media. So it's not about that at all. But if Chris Boyd is our attempt at Jamie Carragher or Gary Neville or Roy Keane, then it is a catastrophic failure, to be honest. And I think it says a lot about how this country's football is represented, that people are just willing to tolerate it and say, just laugh at him, just ignore him. No, why don't we do something about it? If we're not happy about it, why should we ignore him in that privileged position?
He's just an obnoxious oaf, isn't he, man? He's the loudest guy in the golf club. That's what he is. He's horrendous, and the less Chris Boyd we have on our screens, the less Chris Boyd covering football, the better. Look, that's enough about him. We need to talk about these Celtic goals. First up, Melly, you made the noise. Come to you. Reo Hatate.
Absolutely sensational. It's just Celtic, as we said, right from the off, going at them and managed to get the corner, and the ball breaks to him. Two Rangers players running each other, and come back onto that. But the control and the placed finish as well. Don't know if there was a wee touch going through, but I think it would have been in anyway. He's just got that technique where a game like that, 60,000 people screaming, and he's just got the composure just to take it down, take the touch, and bang, put it into the corner. And there's a lovely wee noise when it hits the net and goes up, and the place just erupts. And you're like, the start was beyond my wildest dreams. Beyond my wildest dreams, you always think, imagine we could get an early goal, but I think these games will be tight. As soon as that went in, the whole place went mental, and it was sensational from a sensational player.
It's what we needed, Stephen, to settle the nerves. I mean, at this point, I was still nervous about it, but Reo Hatate, we've already discussed how different class he was, that goal.
Well, I find myself saying it an awful lot, and praying for early goals in these games, or even it's basically every game, because even the games against Livingston and all that who try to sit in, we always ask for early goals to sort of throw plan B out the window, or throw their game plan out the window for guys like for teams like Livingston, and name them throughout Scottish football. But I'm also conscious of the fact that when I say that, obviously they're trying to score early goals. No one ever plans to say, right, don't you dare score in the 4th minute. We are waiting till at least the 18th minute to open the scoring here. But to actually get that sure as hell settled the nerves. It really, really did. Because it's not just the goal as well, it's the manner of it and the way that Celtic thoroughly deserved it that made me think, well, that's obviously the result of the work that Celtic have put in here. It's not just like a fluke goal or something like that. We've got away with one. It's against the run of play or anything like that. Thoroughly deserved it, and it sure as hell settled the nerves for me.
The second goal as well. Absolute class. The move that led up to it as well, though, Melly.
Yeah, that's the sort of Ange ball, wasn't it? The first goal we get a break from a corner, it comes out, so it can happen. But the second goal is everything he's spoken about. It's that going down that right hand side, players moving inside, the other player going the outside, and all the players involved. It was absolutely brilliant. It's just 1-2 touches until we get in there, and then for Abada just to find Hatate. Hatate just takes a touch and then just sort of bends it round into this space between the goalkeeper and defender. And when that went in, like, everybody went mental apart from him. He just turned around nonchalantly. Like, that's what I do, man.
I know, he's just like
great celebration. That's some of the best celebrations of all time. Have just been sort
the
of
Cantona one's the main one.
walk off knockouts. Basically, you're already celebrating before your opponents hit the ground, and it just
but Melly's kind of like, it's almost like he does know what the fuss is about. He's like, of course I scored a perler into that bum.
He had a smile on his face, of course. He had a big grin on his face, but he just let it wash over him. Man. It just soaked it all up, man. It was an absolutely great celebration. But the way he finds space as well, and a lot of people could look at that goal, and probably others, as defensive mistakes, but it's not an accident that the players are finding space like this. We've already spoken about the way they work the ball out wide and just move it through the lines, through past players. It's not an accident that Reo Hatate just knows where to arrive. It's very, very similar to Abada in that regard. Abada just seems to have unbelievable instincts for it. The guy's just unbelievable at it, but Hatate, he just arrives in an area where there's no other players and turns and bends it in a kind of weird halfway up the goal. The keeper can do nothing.
But this is like, do you know what this looks like? And that goal sort of encapsulated it. This looks like a brand new Celtic team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no overlays from like, Brendan Rodgers, nothing Neil Lennon. He's just swiped the board clean. Is that what you do with a board? You just wiped the slate clean, is what I'm trying to say. He's wiped the slate clean, and as you were saying, Melly, just that interchange in play, like that fast pace, quick changing, runs off the ball football. That's kind of like what we always wanted to see for Celtic. And then at the end of this brilliant move, you've got an absolute class midfielder just sticking one in for 30 odd yards or whatever it was past Alan McGregor. You're hard pushed to find a better goal.
Yeah, it was class, and like all the one-touch play and the interplay down the right-hand side is brilliant. But there's also the fact that Hatate's meant to be like the sort of left-hand side of the centre midfield, but he's right over there, keeping up with play. And when you look at him, there's a point I think you see just before he gets on the ball that he was quite close to Glenn Kamara, I think it was. As soon as he gets on the ball, he's miles away from Kamara because he's made it into that space. He's known, if I'm here, if they're working down there, if I come in here, I could get the ball. And it's just the way Celtic are. Everybody knows their job. Everybody knows what they're doing. And it's like Anshit again said, like, you're always involved. Always be involved, because you never know what could happen. And you need to have faith in the system and faith in the players that are playing that system. And it looks like the Celtic players do, because it's players make movements as if they're going to get the ball. There's not a lot of things where you think, that was a lucky run. They know they're either going to get these passes or it's going to be close to that. We've seen that so many times with Abada, but just going down that right-hand side into Hatate, and you're like, this is dreamland stuff. Because I was just before that, I'm always nervous in these games, no matter what. You always say it, Stephen. It's just the way I've been brought up. It's just scarred into me, etched into my thinking, and just I was thinking just a couple of minutes before that, just looking at the clock. Get to half time 1-0. We are playing so well here. I'd love another goal, but just get in, don't give them anything, because all they really had was that pass inside to Arfield, which Joe Hart came out and smothered. They had nothing in the first half. Again, created no chances, and we've seen that so many times with Celtic. But just getting that second goal, you're like, oh, this is dreamland stuff. Like, get into half time 2-0. We are flying here. Then a minute later, you're like, this is wild. This is wild.
And see, as loath as I am to give him any credit whatsoever, Alan McGregor, he's thwarted Celtic a lot over the years. He's getting on a bit. I think he recently turned 40. Many happy returns, Alan. I know you watch.
He's that raging guy in the comments, leaving unspeakably horrible things.
Billy King, 1972. As loath as I am to give him any credit, he's still a good shot stopper. I mean, those instincts, I mean,
they pulled off a couple of good ones against Giakoumakis.
That's Giakoumakis, exactly. So, I mean, the reflexes are still there. He dropped a couple of clangers in the previous game against Ross County, but that was more coming out to try and claim the ball and just making an ass of it. The shot stopping reflexes are still there quite a bit for Alan McGregor. So the idea that it's easy to just pick up a bit of space and just bend it round Alan McGregor as if it's a piece of piss, and he still deserves tremendous credit for getting into that.
Speaking of clangers, I think clanger of the day goes to Borna Barisic.
The Borna Bear.
The Borna Bear Barisic. Sorry, Melly. See, when I saw Abada creeping in at the back post, they didn't creep in, actually steamed in for the back post area, right beyond the Barisic, ran right past him and stuck that ball in the back of the net, and all Barisic could do was just go down on his knees, sat down and went, that's the international symbol for get me the fuck off this pitch, because I'm having such a horror show. And his manager obliged. His manager was more than happy to hook him because he was having an absolutely terrible game. But when I saw that, I just thought, this lot, they don't know what's hit them here. And we said that, I think it was last week on the podcast, we said, you can't deny Abada anymore. There's no denying the guy.
The goal was amazing, because it's again what Andrew's been talking about. We don't stop. The other team might stop, but we'll not. Celtic get a throw in, and Glenn Kamara's right beside Hatate. Hatate just takes a wee step and makes that run, and Greg Taylor takes a quick throw, and then he just puts this ball across. But again, he puts a ball across into a dangerous area. But if what Andrew's saying about this team and we don't stop, we keep going, never stop. If it's on the other side, always be prepared. He's put it into an area knowing that there's a good chance Giakoumakis or Abada will be in there. The ball in's brilliant, but when you see the pull back angle of the run Abada makes, he times it, then he steams in, as you said, and the touch finish is absolutely brilliant. But looking at Barisic just going down onto his knees, it was a pitiful performance from the guy. And you said it, Stephen, up again when it was Bobby Pett against Rickson, Bobby Pett absolutely tore apart Rickson.
The literal game of his career.
Yeah,
Bobby Pett,
this was completely different. This was a guy that was a shite bag, because having watched it back, every time he goes forward with the ball, he either plays the easy ball inside, he's no interested in running with the ball, he's no interested in taking players on, and there's even one but he just gets it and it's a 5-yard pass, and he just passed it to Callum McGregor. There was one that rolled under his foot and went out. Abada went past him so many times, and it's not just, doesn't need to just be Abada that goes past him. It was when, even in the second goal, he doesn't have a clue where he's meant to run because there's Celtic players going. He doesn't know what he's doing. The third goal absolutely finishes him as well. I was like, that guy has had an absolute nightmare. Absolutely brilliant for us, because as soon as that hit, I thought the second goal was beyond my wildest dreams. This was pandemonium in the place. The place was rocking, man.
3-0. I mean, there's no way back from there. But Abada's goal, it became very, very apparent. I remember sitting here and saying on the podcast that after about 2 goals, he'd scored about 2 goals, and we remarked that he looks quite good at that. He looks quite good at just drifting in and finishing off chances. So here we are, 4 or 5 months later, and he's still doing it. It looks like he's going to do it in every single game, quite frankly.
Well, this is what I was going to say, right? You're doing your homework on Celtic, right? You are manager of 20-minute Tims United. You've drawn Celtic in the cup, okay? Yeah. And you've got a list of the 3 main dangers for Celtic, right? Definitely on that top 3 list is Abada coming in for the opposite side in central position and finishing. How they had no idea that was going to happen. It's astounding to me, and it's an indication of how, I don't know if they were badly prepared. I don't know if they just thought they could turn up and beat us and they didn't have to think about it. I don't know if what I said earlier in the podcast about the event, the occasion, the fact that we've been playing so well got to them. But to lose a goal like that, if you look at the Rangers' defence, they were all over the place.
It starts from the throw-in, like Kamara, no doing his job, just letting a guy walk off him. The ball goes into basically the 6-yard box, and nobody's there to cut it out. Nobody. I don't think they can blame the keeper for not coming, but for Barisic just to go down like that, is that like that's all your fault, mate? All your life in football, you're told, be aware of where your opponent is. He didn't have a Scooby until he seen the ball hit the back of the net. He had no idea that.
Didn't even look over his shoulder. Didn't even check. Abada just went, cheers, I'll take it. Bump.
With this stuff with Abada now, the instincts that he appears to have for picking up spaces in the box and those runs that defenders just don't seem to be able to follow at all. He did it again against Motherwell, just appeared out of nowhere. Motherwell defence didn't know where he was. Goal. So it's now becoming such a strength with him, and it's now 14 goals. And we had the discussion last week about how I'm fed up with the debate over whether he's good enough now. I'm not interested in it anymore. I've totally reversed my feelings towards Abada, because I think at this point that is, as I say, such a strength for him that it's almost quite pointless focusing on the negatives all the time.
Yeah.
I feel like now focusing on Abada,
he just scores.
He can't take players on, and right, that's his maybe. I think he does have issues with the ball, trying to take defenders on, but I feel like at this point to ignore his obvious threats in front of goal from either out wide or through the middle. He scored a couple of goals as a central striker as well.
Such a young player as well.
Yeah, and I feel like to focus on that would be a bit like taking, I don't know, N'Golo Kante and being like, he doesn't score many, does he though?
Yeah.
So I don't know, he's a bit doubtful for me. Messi, rubbish in the air, absolutely terrible in the air.
I feel like there was a time though when that troubled us, when we were kind of relying on him to be provider. And he wasn't provider.
That's why we were talking about it. Yeah, that's why we spoke about it at length.
We didn't just make this up out of nowhere. There was a time where Abada was meant to be provider and he wasn't doing it. But as you say, all those conversations go in the bin now, because the contribution to his side is undeniable.
Yeah. It is. It's goals and assists. He's doing something pretty much every game now, and it is something that happened earlier in the season, because when you took Jota out the team, there wasn't much creativity if Jota and Rogic weren't playing. That it didn't really happen sometimes. But now you've got Tati creating goals, you've got the whole team in sync doing well, and I think Wednesday night was that it could be a big turning point for a lot of people. Like MD had any doubts in Abada, they're probably gone now.
Yeah.
Greg Taylor, they're probably gone with doubts about that guy. Whether Cal McGregor's a captain, the doubts about that are gone. And see if you had any doubts about Ange Postecoglou as well, they should be completely gone.
See, one thing with Abada as well, and those discussions we've had previously this season, I think probably a lot of it was down to the fact that any guy who comes in that position is probably being unfairly or not compared to James Forrest of like 3 seasons ago, right? So that's probably what you need to, because James Forrest is coming back from injury and he's always going to be compared to that. He's doing well, but see, once Forrest comes back, Abada's, he's not really doing enough, so Forrest will probably come back in. But fast forward a few weeks now and James Forrest is back in the team. He's not fully fit yet, but he is back. He is now turning in the numbers that Forrest and Sinclair and all that were a few seasons ago.
Probably better than Forrest, isn't it?
If this season plays out the way it is, it'll take some doing, but it could come close to Scott Sinclair first season stuff, and that simply can't be ignored. And I don't want to frame this as a go at Forrest, but you can't drop Abada now. You absolutely just can't. He's producing so much, and as I say, it looks like he's going to score in every game now.
3-0 at half time, and once you're 3 goals down at half time, there's no coming back for that. The game's gone. The words of Connor Goldson earlier on in the season, and it did look like that. And as one of you guys said at the beginning of the podcast, we did our work in the first half and just controlled the game from there on in. I had no worries. I didn't even think, it wasn't even like, oh God, 3-0, if they score, it's going to be tight for the last 40 minutes or whatever, last half hour. I didn't have any worries at all. I just thought, this is just party time for here on out.
Yeah, we've seen it from Celtic a lot of the season. We barely concede chances. We might get the odd one from a cross, but what have we? We've never conceded more than 2 goals in a game in domestically, have we?
Certainly know the form Carter Vickers was in that night as well, who no mentioned yet.
Him and Starfelt, absolutely solid. Had so much of the ball and used it very well right through the team. Everybody was going, but it's the control Celtic had over the game. There's a maybe give up 1 or 2 chances because it is a game like that, and it usually happens in any game. You'll give up 1 or 2 chances, but they're not going to give up 3 goals. There's no way they're giving up 3 goals. We're good for this, and even if we do give up a goal, we could probably up the ante and score another one if we wanted. We had options on the bench. We had very good options on the bench actually that could come on and hurt Rangers, and everybody was doing their job. And even if we were under a bit of pressure, what we could have done is just, we've got that outball to Giakoumakis, the guy.
You need to have an outball.
You need to have an outball so you don't shit the nest. And we did have that outball up to Giakoumakis. He gave those 2 centre-halves a torrid time, so much so they had to bring on another centre-half at half-time. But it was a good performance from him, just lacking a goal up there, but everything else from him. Another guy maybe had doubts about. Still, maybe you could say, is he going to be the main striker going forward? Probably not. But is he a good option to have up there? Yes. And is he going to play in tougher games than that domestically? No, he's not, and he was brilliant.
But Maeda comes off the plane, as you said, and contributes for 20 minutes. Meanwhile, Aaron Ramsey's sitting in the stand the 400k kid sitting there.
Free pie though. Who's laughing?
Well, he did. I think he got a programme as well.
Yeah,
It's a free pie in a programme. Maeda came on, but I want to talk about Ben Doak a wee bit. Twice he's came on. Ange must see something in him. He's kind of just exploded out of nowhere.
Sturdy wee Wayne Rooney-esque guy.
Isn't he?
He's a wee solid guy for... I think he's only just turned 16 as well, which is
Ben Yoke.
terrifying. Ben Yoke.
There we go.
That's terrifying for that age to come on and look. What you would expect out of a player that young is to be pretty fearless. You know, you kind of get nothing to lose. Just go on and just take guys on, and he did that. So big talent by the looks of it. I wasn't really all that aware of him prior to him being on this game. The guy
Hardly played for the B team.
Yeah. So he looks like one of these guys who's going to be fast tracked. Some chat about Liverpool being interested in him. So
why would you go with the bums when you get Ange Postecoglou here?
Exactly. Jurgen who? Yeah. So yeah, looks a big talent, and he contributed as well. Even if it's something we've discussed in the past as well, coming on, and if you're under a little bit of pressure, just gaining that yardage up the pitch as well. So if you advance Celtic forward in the dying minutes, that's pretty useful at that point.
And obviously, you know, the performance was good, the result was good, but we got the points on the board, 10 point swing in a couple of weeks. Now, we've sat in this podcast and we've like, this Rangers game's must win. You know, if we lose that, we can kiss goodbye to the league. We could be X amount of points behind. Rangers must now be looking at us going, they've got all the chasing to do. You know, prior to them playing Hearts, what was it? We were 4 points clear for a matter of hours for the first time. When last time we were 4 points clear at the top of the league?
Long time ago. And
too long, baby.
Far too long. That was the main thing about, like, the performance was sensational, and we can go all about that. Everything about it, the atmosphere, the roll with it at the end will live with me for a long time. That was absolutely tremendous. But the main thing is getting back on top. And now you're looking at it, was there 13 games to go? We ticked one off at the weekend again there. So you're just looking at it, and we're back to this, take it one game at a time. Because if Celtic win 11 out of those 13, we'll be champions because we'll play them twice in there. So I know that's easier said than done, but right now this Celtic team are looking very good. We're in great form, and I know we will have to drop points at some point, but now that we've got options and all that, now that we're top, we can just keep pressing on. Now we just need to do our job. We don't need to worry about MD else. We don't need to worry about favours from MD. We've got our own job to do, and we're just going out and doing it, and we showed that in the Motherwell
game. Still get pretty much the player of the season to come back in the team as well.
I know.
In fact, you know, now that I've said that, I hadn't really intended to say it, but just to tack on to the end of the Abada conversation, at what point do we stop talking about the guy's flaws and start talking about him for player of the year mentions? I mean, the guy's been unbelievable. Certainly young player of the year.
Just this team, once Maeda gets up to speed, Kyogo. I mean, what's this team going to look? How good are they going to be? Where's this team going to go?
Tom Rogic comes back in at the weekend.
Tom Rogic come back in at the weekend. Absolutely unbelievable. I mean, that Motherwell game was another big game. We said it in the build-up. We said, you know, there's no point going to beat Rangers and then dropping points to Motherwell. That just doesn't work.
I was slightly concerned because I thought that, right, we can go out there and blow away Rangers, right, because of the intensity of the occasion. We can get swept up in that. It's human nature. You're going to get up for the bigger games. It's just going to happen. It's Ange's job to make sure that those intensity levels don't drop too much. But I'm worried that there's still those unanswered questions sometimes from earlier in the season that can we overcome those teams that make it physically difficult? Can we overcome those teams that like to make it difficult for a team? Well and truly answered on that occasion, because they absolutely destroyed Motherwell in a display of football that's up there with, again, I keep saying it, I've said it a couple of times this season, playing some of the best stuff of my lifetime, and that's no mean feat. That's a big deal. It's playing some of the best stuff of my lifetime, and that was another example of it on Sunday there. It
didn't even matter that Hearts went on to Hibs against Rangers. I mean, that didn't count for anything, because Celtic were just playing some scintillating stuff. And, I mean, as you mentioned, Melly, Tom Rogic.
Yeah, Tom Rogic was brilliant. He comes in, gets 2 goals at man of the match, absolutely brilliant. Anthony Ralston comes in, plays that through ball for the second goal, absolutely class as well. He played very well, and then Maeda comes in to start and scores a goal. So
what a finish!
I still feel like we've not seen the best of Maeda yet. I don't think he's fully up to speed.
No.
Do you think it's like the expectations on him? It's like everyone, Kyogo, bang, right? Okay. Hatate in, bang, hits the ground running. Now everyone's like, is this just what happens when you sign Japanese players? They just come in and hit the ground running.
He scored 2 goals in 3 starts, hasn't he? To include the cup game.
Very lucky that Motherwell won though.
Yeah, but so you make your own luck as well. The only thing is that He started out in the wide area, and it wasn't until he moved into the centre forward position where I think you really seen the best of him in the game, because the pace of the guy and the runs he can make was giving their defenders a torrid time in the second half. So I think going forward, his best position might be up front. So while Kyogo's out, that's fine, but Giakoumakis also
I've got
done
no
all right.
beef with Giakoumakis, by the way.
No.
He put it about in
Yeah,
that
he did,
Motherwell
yeah.
game. He put it about. So I saw a tweet, someone says he looks like he was made in a lab specifically for Livingston away.
Yeah.
Playing them.
It wasn't one of our tweets, was it? Was it
No,
somebody
I
else's?
don't think so.
Right,
No, I
right.
don't think we can claim credit for that one. But yeah, he's an absolute nuisance. I just wish he could get a couple of goals, just
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
get the confidence up a bit.
But if you're
because
watching this, Giakoumakis, we just want you to know that we
Yeah,
appreciate the shout at you.
100%, I think he's done a really good job, and it's the type of thing that maybe doesn't necessarily show up in certain stats and all that. I don't know if there is a metric for getting right in about them when it comes
Of
to
course there
defences.
is.
Expected getting about them.
Expected nuisances up front. A right good old fashioned centre forward and all that. But yeah, he's been important. I don't want to talk in those terms as if it's that he's just some sort of blunt object.
No, he's good.
But he's been very, very important in Celtic getting these results, because he's given these defences something to really think about. And there, I know that's a big cliche, but that's specifically what he's good.
But it's
in there
not
to
just
do.
like blunt instrument running about elbowing
No.
people. Like, see the tracking back he does,
Yeah,
the work
yeah.
in midfield and
works
all
very,
that.
very
He's
hard. He's-
unbelievable.
He's not. I remember when we signed Dion Dublin and he came in, he was basically just this big battering ram up front. He was getting towards the end of his career and he would just swagger onto the pitch and start barging people about. That's not what he is at all. Like Giakoumakis gets about the pitch and puts in a lot of work off the ball, fights for the ball as well. So he's been crucial in this last couple of results. I don't mean to imply that he's just this big lump up front, because that couldn't be further from the truth.
He's very intelligent, and he's like pressing and all that, because I think there was specific instructions for him for his pressing against Rangers, because there was times he was sort of deeper than the wingers pressing, and he was doubling up on players and putting Rangers under pressure, and as we've seen, they couldn't handle it. He was good again at the weekend. Maeda goes up front, scores. Like Tom Rogic comes in and is brilliant. Then like Hatate and Cal McGregor go off at half time. And Matt O'Reilly comes on and he's threading balls through. He's backheeling all these passes. Like Celtic were just showboating in the second half. It was 3-0 again at half time. And like I was again nervous going into the game, because I will be for every game until Celtic score. But once we scored and then bang bang, 2 quick goals, and you're like, well, this is job done before half time again. And it's not as if that we're getting breaks of the ball and all that. We're shredding teams.
Yeah.
We're ripping them apart in different ways. Like Greg Taylor into Hatate, crosses it, and then there's Abada running in, the ball from Ralston, the cutback from Abada, Rogic, and then Rogic has got his wonder goal as well in there. Like, where do you stop Celtic? What specifically do you stop? Because you blunt Giakoumakis, then you've got 2 guys out wide that can do something.
Can he?
Then you've got 2 central midfielders making runs. Then you've got these fullbacks you need to think about. Then you're at corners, Carter
I
Vickers
think
and
the only way to
Starfelt.
stop Celtic is if
Get a
you-
plastic pitch.
no, that you really sit in, you dig in, you hope nothing comes off for Celtic, which was easier to do when we didn't have all these options and
Yeah.
all these players and all these ways to change the game, Stephen. Or you have to be a Leverkusen, you have to run over the top of us. You
Yeah.
have to take your game to us, and it's like top trumps just hopes that your game beats us, because if you change the way you play and try and stop Celtic playing domestically, I don't know if there's many teams that can do it.
It's a good point. Leverkusen did do that to an
Yeah.
extent, but there's only so many of those they're going to come up
Well,
against
that's
every
it. That's why,
season.
yeah.
They are probably not necessarily elite, but probably like a second tier European side at the
The
moment.
best team we play this season.
Oh
wasn't it?
yeah. So it's easier said than done from a domestic point of view to just rock up and for that to be your plan against
Yeah.
Celtic, because not everyone has those resources.
You think that'll be Aberdeen's plan next when we play them?
It may well be, but they're not in the
No.
greatest of
Beleaguered
shakes at the moment.
Aberdeen.
But they are beleaguered. I think they are officially beleaguered at the moment. So I would never dismiss them. Every game is extremely important just now. And as much as I've just said I was nervous going into the Motherwell game for those reasons, just because it's a totally different challenge to someone like Rangers, I feel the same way about Aberdeen. But that's just me. That's just how I go into these games.
It's kind of, I'm in Melly's camp, one game at a time now.
Yeah, that's
just
it.
crossing the fixtures off the calendar, making our way through them, no looking too far ahead. We've got Aberdeen up next, then we've got Wraith, then we're into Europe. Knockout football returns to Celtic
Right.
Park. It's every game is crucial. We just need to take it one at a time. But that Rangers game I just feel a lot better about the team now. And I said it on the reaction podcast. It's Ange's giving us our team back.
Yeah, definitely. Like, we're all only 1 point ahead, and when you're looking at Rangers came back and beat Hearts at the weekend, so that's the third place team and they scalped them 5-0. So we're not going to get many favours for the rest
I
of
actually
the
think
season.
that might be good for Celtic, that result, because it would immediately get rid of any notion, if it did exist, that Rangers were done and out.
Yeah,
To
well,
see Rangers go and do that in the camp, Ange can use that and say at the camp, look, that's if we take our eye off the ball, that's what can happen.
you're right, because we spent far too long last season wondering when the collapse was going to come from them. We simply can't afford to take that attitude towards it. We simply have to be about Celtic from now on. And in summary, if we're kind of getting towards the wrap up of this,
We are.
we are good. I'm really delighted with how Celtic performed in that game. I really am, and I think it goes without saying almost, but I want to say it anyway. I was really, really proud of the team and the fans and the manager. I was really happy for everyone after that performance, because it's only one game. It's only one game, and it's only 3 points. No matter who you're playing against, it's only 3 points, but it did put us to the top of the table. But as I've been keen to point out at several points this season, it's not just about how the season ends, it's about what happens along the way. It's about the journey and all those trite cliches and all that. But I do believe that it's about, stopping every so often and taking stock of where you've come in the last year.
Bloody hell,
and what a distance that is, literally and figuratively, and what a distance this team has come in that short space of time, with just one manager and a load of good recruitment and a good system that the players have bought into. That's all it is.
And a
taken.
good backroom staff. Remember all the part,
Get rid of them all.
Get these guys out of our club. I thought it was quite telling that he had Gavin Strachan in his manager of the month official photos.
Vindication for Cyber Gav.
Yes, he's got on your laptop and all that, I think, for manager of the month. Look, and on that, guys, this is a good place to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of 20 Minute Tims. If you want more content, podcast, videos, writing and all that stuff from us, or you just want to support the podcast, patreon.com/20 Minute Tims. There's a link below. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for watching and listening.